Hello, I want to show you guys how to add and subtract integers using counters and also seeing it on a number line. So when we're dealing with integers, all these numbers either are going to be negative or positive, or neither, which would be 0. But they will always have a sign in front of them, even if it's not written. Like in this example, I know that this 5 is positive 5, even though the sign's not there. So negative 3 plus 5 is the same thing as just saying negative 3 plus positive 5. The positive sign is inferred. It's just assumed that it is positive since there is no negative written there. So when it's negative, the negative sign needs to be there. If it's not there, we assume that it is a positive number. So we're trying to figure out what negative 3 plus 5 would end up being and how we can show that on the number line, how we can show that using counters. Well, I know that when you add numbers, when you're adding, you go to the right on the number line. When you subtract numbers, you go to the left on the number line. Draw this a little bit clearer. So I'm going to start at negative 3 and I'm going to add 5. So I start at negative 3, and when you add numbers, you're going to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I should end up with 2 as my answer. I started at negative 3. I went 5 to the right. I'm going to end up at positive 2. Let's see if I can show that with counters. So these red ones are going to represent negatives. And when we add things, we join them together. So I'm saying I have negative 3, and I want to add positive 5. How does that get me to 2? Well, this makes a couple of 0 pairs when I combine them together. So I'm joining these negatives with these positives. What happens is when I join them together, the negatives cancel out what the positives are. So negative 1 and positive 1 turn out to equal 0. So I can picture this as 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 1 plus 1, which ends up being 2. Let's try one that's a little bit more complicated here. If that makes sense. You can always pause and go back if you wanted to take a little bit more time to look at these. All right, this time I'm going to start with positive 2. I'll get rid of these. And I'll draw positive 2, our starting point. And I want to take away negative 1. So I have positive 2. I'm going to subtract negative 1. What do you think will happen? We're taking away a negative from something that we don't have any negatives to take away. Well, I can rewrite this 2 to contain a negative. So I could say that this, by adding 0 to it, it's still 2. It's 2 plus 0, or 1 plus 1 plus 0. Now I have a negative 1 to take away. I can throw it over here. It's in the trash can. Here's my trash can. I threw it away in the trash can. So by taking away that negative, it actually turns out to increase these. So it's actually the same as saying 2 plus 1, by taking away a negative, this take away negative part turns out is the same as addition. So by taking away a negative, we have increased by 1 and got to 3. Let's look at a couple other examples. And then once you pick up on these rules, you won't need the counters or the number line anymore. You'll be able to do these just by rewriting them. So that'll still be my trash can. Get rid of some of these. Let's say I start with -2. Here's my question. I have -2. I want to subtract -5. I want to take away 5 negatives when I start with 2 negatives. I start with -2 and I want to take away -5. I can take away 2. That's easy. There's 2. But I can't take away 5. 5 is the goal. So what if I added some 0 pairs here? What if I just rewrote this as -2 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0? It's never going to change the value of that -2 by adding 0. But now, if you notice, I have 5 negatives that I can take away. Yes. These 5 negatives I can take away and throw them away, which leaves me with 3 positives. So with the counters, it's telling me that -2 minus -5 is +3. That by taking away a negative, I've increased by 5. I guess 3 would be here. So I'm going from -2. I'm increasing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I end up at 3 from -2. So I've gone up by 5. And that's saying -2 plus 5 equals 3. If I were to rewrite this to take away the minus negative, that minus negative turns into a addition sign. All right, I hope this helps. Don't hesitate to ask any questions in class. I'll see you there, and have an awesome day.